Good day to you all, sports investors. How you doing today? It's your beloved host of the Betting Public Sports Show, Fame Rothstein, aka Michael Snackson, aka Bay O Wolf, aka what do I call myself? Malcolm Excellence, aka Hacksaw Jim Thuggin. Right? And I'm sitting here with an old pal of mine. We go back a little more than 30 years. He's because as you all know, on this show, we don't just talk about sports betting. You know, we bring in other sports topics in here. And this is a very important topic we need to talk about running for sport, running for health. And my man here, like I said, I've known him for over 30 years. We go back a little bit. He's gonna, we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we're gonna, talk about how he got into running and his running podcast. But without further ado, I would like to introduce to you all my man, the great Don Hahn. How you doing, Don?
Hey, I'm doing great. I knew you back when you only went by one name. That was Todd Bonds. I think it was TB3, if I remember right.
Something like that. It's all good, though.
All the way back to junior high school. Yeah, it's great to be on.
And see, that's gonna always be a memory of me, of you or me. Like I'm gonna tell you right now, if you pass before me, I'm telling this at your eulogy. So we were in ninth grade or whatever. We were doing speeches, in front of the class. And, I think it was an informative speech or explanatory speech or something that week. And this cat, Don Hahn, he gets up there and he gives this, and I'm telling you, this is how good it was. I still remember it 35 years ago.
Stop it, you're killing me.
I'm dead serious.
What was the speech? I have no idea.
You explained how a baseball lineup works, the batting order, how it works from the leadoff hitter, what his skills should be, the second hitter, what his skills should be, third, fourth, all the way down to 9. I was just sitting there like, damn, changed my whole thing up. My speech, changed it up the next day. Like I can't go out there like that. That's gonna be an A speech. She's gonna grade against that. So I had to do that. But other than that, like I said, I'm gonna always remember that about you, man. How you been though?
Oh, it's been a good run, man. I remember we had a lot of fun times in Mr. Deerseen's class and his history classes. Those were always good times. He was a fun teacher to have, and I know we shared a lot of classes throughout the years. It was good stuff. I've been busy in these last 30-something years, man, as you have. And I appreciate you bringing me onto the show. I've definitely checked it out several times. I love the guests that you bring on. You've always got interesting topics to talk about, and I'm happy that I could be on here. I'm the host of the Runnerds Library Podcast. And run nerd is kind of an affectionate term that runners in the community use with one another. Like when you eat, drink, breathe, talk about everything is about running. To give you an idea, you're driving down the street and you see somebody running and all of a sudden you wish you were also running or something along those lines. So run nerds, basically, they want to talk about running. They want to do everything they can with running. I have the most expensive watches I've ever owned are running watches. I have 8 pairs of running shoes right now. So these are some clues that if you're talking to somebody with that kind of stuff, they might be a run nerd also.
No, let me just tell you, because I saw that a couple weeks ago about your podcast. That's what made me want to interview you. Yeah, and I'm sitting there like, oh, I saw you. I saw your YouTube clip. I was like, oh, he must have had a typo on his title, because I saw what's it spelled, Runnrds. And then you told me that again today. It was like, it's pronounced Run Nerds. Yeah. And, seeing it in writing, I'm just not, it's just not processing until about a half hour ago. I was like, Run Nerds. Oh, Run Nerds.
Yeah.
The running nerds. Okay, I liked it. I'm like, that was pretty slick.
Yeah, and it's like I had to explain to some people. They're like, "Is it Runner D? Runner D? Your name is Don. It's Runner D, right?" Like, no, it's not Runner D or Runnerd. Like it's just all run together like Runnerd. No, it's the 2 words. I just mashed them together, and so that's kind of where that comes from. It's a little bit of a fun term we use in the community to describe each other. We also love to read about running related stuff, and that's where the library part comes in. Since I started running, what I would say as a serious runner, and by no means fast, but just loving the sport, I've read, I don't know, countless books. Starting back in '05, I picked up a book by Dean Carnazzi where he described he's a ultra marathoner from back in the day, and he described how he got started with doing ultra marathons. He had a bad day, literally had a bad day, couldn't sleep, went out for a run in his dress shoes and underpants, and ended up running through the night. Oh. So that's, it's a little bit of an unusual way to get started. So if your guests are looking to get started in running, that's probably not the first one I would recommend. But but since then I've read so many other books that on the topic of running, and they span the whole gamut from Jack Daniels' book on running to the quintessential novel for anybody who likes a good running novel, fiction story. Once a Runner has always been kind of that book that people would point to on their bookshelf. And so, yeah, there's a lot of great books out there. And so all those things kind of came together, and it fills my passion. I've been a publishing executive for a while now, and I've been in the publishing industry for about 25 years. So all those things kind of came together for me, and I was able to marry some of my passion with my vocation.
Oh, that's lovely. Let's get into that a little later here. Let me ask you this though: what started your passion for running and distance running?
Yeah. So in college, I ran at college. I did not run in college, and I want to be very clear about that. So I went to the University of Cincinnati. I was not on any of the athletic teams, but I did run. I ran on the track, ran in the Armory daily. So we were out there getting the work done, but it was just more fitness. I was really into working out throughout college, like a lot of college students are, and spent a lot of time in the pit. So if anybody, any of your listeners used to work out in the pit at the University of Cincinnati in the basement of the Armory, it was kind of a gnarly, think Gold's Gym, but rustier weights. There wasn't a Nautilus room or anything like that, but a great place to go in and work out. Loud music pumping, cool people in there working out. So did all those things. Then after I graduated college, I was playing in basketball leagues. I was playing in softball leagues, etc. At a point in time, I took a promotion with the company I was working for and moved out to Central Illinois. And right around that time, I was in a new place, didn't really know anybody. So I got into kind of a sedentary rut. I wasn't really doing much of anything exercise wise. So give it a little bit of time. A few things happened. I get married, very exciting. We have our first child, also super exciting. And then 6 months down the road, my daughter Annalise gets a diagnosis for neurofibromatosis.
Oh man.
Yeah. And that's really that was one of the catalysts for it. So there were really two catalysts for distance running specifically. One was I was sitting on the couch watching I think it must have been the 2004 Olympic marathon race. And American Meb Keflezighi won the silver medal that year. So I'm sitting on the couch in our townhouse, and my daughter's on my lap sleeping. She's like, a month old or whatever. Great bonding experience. And I was like, you know what, this marathon, I can't believe people can run 26.2 miles. Right. I think I might want to try that. So I planted that seed in my head, and I told people I'm going to run a marathon someday. And people are like, yeah, you're going to run a marathon, right? We'll see. Right. Right. But then fast forward a few months and we get that diagnosis. And my wife and I are all over the internet trying to figure out what the heck NF is. What is neurofibromatosis? And when you research anything health related, you know what happens, right? You get all of the worst possible scenarios. That's what comes up in your feed. And so we're looking at these results like, oh man, there doesn't seem to be any hope. There's no cure. There's really nobody doing a lot of research on it, et cetera, et cetera. So we weren't filled with a lot of hope at that point, but we did some more research, kept researching. We came across an organization that's called the Children's Tumor Foundation today, and they have a marathon fundraising program. So you sign up for a marathon, you raise money, it goes towards the donations go towards funding research for neurofibromatosis. We're like, bingo, this is the perfect fit. We're not going to put on the lab coat and go in and we're not microbiologists, but we can certainly ask some people to kick in some money, and I'll go out there and run miles, and we'll see what we're going to do here. So I reached out to the organization and I said, I'm thinking I might want to run the Chicago Marathon with you. Give me some details. So I'm on the phone with the coordinator, Allie, and she's kind of walking me through everything. If you get to a certain level, you get the shirt. You get to another level, you get a sweatshirt. Then you get to another level, you get your hotel paid for and so forth. And I was like, okay, all that sounds great. Well, how about this? I'm going to go ahead and start training for the marathon. And if training is going well, I'll give you a call back and we'll get signed up. And she's like, well, how about if we just go ahead and sign you up today, and that'll give you more motivation to get out there and do the workouts. So I would assume that she's probably had a few people that were nibbling on the line and then got away. So she talked me into signing up that day. So that's what I did. And I went from sedentary to marathon in 5 months. Again, I don't recommend the Dean Carnazzi method of running through the night in your underwear. Also, I don't recommend the sedentary to marathon in 5 months. And
Absolutely.
I'll say I was 28 years old at the time too, so not too far removed from when I was more physically active. But it was a lot of fun. And what I found out along the way, Todd, was I loved running. I loved running for a long distance. I remember the first time I was scheduled to run 9 miles. And I was like, that's a lot. That's a long way to go. And I got out there and, I got to 7 miles, which had been my longest up until that point on that run. Then I got to 8 miles. I still felt pretty good. I was like, I'm not going to get this close to 10 miles and not just go 10 miles. For some reason, that double digit had some kind of appeal to it for me. So I just pressed on, and I ended up getting 10 miles that day. And I never really looked back after that. So that's kind of where it all started for me. Since then, I've run a total of 5 marathons.
Nice.
Probably a dozen or more half marathons, and hundreds probably of 5Ks. I also got into coaching youth track and field and youth cross country over that time, and doing a lot of things like race involvement with different organizations to help them raise money for various projects.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the what are some of the things that people have over the years have told you that some of the reasons that they started running? Like, you said the guy was running overnight because he was, he had a issue with his spouse or whatever. What are some of the other reasons people started to run?
A lot of times it comes down to fitness. They know they have to do something. And where do you get started, right? If you've never been a person that goes to the gym, and you've not been to, you don't know about Nautilus, you don't know about free weights, that's super intimidating. Right. It's easy to get started by going out the door and walking, right? Like you can go out in your neighborhood, take a walk. You don't really have to buy equipment or anything like that. So people get started that way, and then kind of sometimes that'll morph into running. Sometimes people will just go right out into running, and they'll do it for a lot of reasons. It's a great stress reliever. For me, if I'm having a kind of a crummy day, I'll go out and take a run and feel a lot better. Or if I need to have clarity in my mind to think about something and solve a problem, going for a run's a great reason. And I hear that from a lot of people. It's a good release. It's good exercise. It opens the mind up, all those things.
I'll say this much. I was an athlete and whatnot, but I never really had good wind, good stamina like that. I was just strong or whatever. But as I got older, I started doing more cardio. And I do like to feel when I'm done with cardio. I don't feel like especially when I do a lot, like, oh wow, I pushed it up a little bit because I probably lost 20 pounds in the last
good work
3 months or whatnot. I mean, it came out quick. I was on some medication as well, but you talked about getting started. Like, what are some like tips for a person to get started running and whatnot?
Yeah, I recommend, well, obviously check with your doctor first, make sure you're healthy to do it. That's always the first thing. But it really can be a low cost sport for you. My recommendation: go get yourself fitted for a good pair of trainers at a running shoe store. Because there's various people overpronate, they subpronate, there are different types of heel strikes and landing patterns and flat-footed versus having a high arch, etc. So it's really best to go get fitted for a pair of shoes that's right for your foot type. That's number one. So you're going to spend a little bit of money there, and that's money well worth it, because running is time on your feet, and it's the constant pounding of your body weight against the ground. I'd also say, while you're at it, get some good running socks. You want to get some wicking fiber socks, so not cotton. It'll save you a lot of pain and blisters down the road. So those things are like, first and foremost, get the right equipment, and those are the two things I recommend putting some money into right away. Otherwise, you can wear basketball shorts, you can wear running shorts, you can whatever you want to wear. But if you're just getting back into athletics at all, and you're not really you don't really have a base over time, or even back when you were younger, start out with a walk and run program. You can find a lot of different ones. There's the Galloway method. He's a big proponent. Jeff Galloway is a big proponent of walk run. So my wife last year did a 5K challenge where she hadn't been a runner, but she wanted to give it a try. So she did a 5K challenge where she started out walking 2 minutes, running a minute, walking 2 minutes, running a minute, and so forth. And you would do that for like 15 minutes one day, and then the next minute, or the next day 18 minutes, and so forth. So you can find programs like that. If you are an athlete like yourself, and you want to get back into it, there are a lot of couch to 5K kind of programs that you can pick up. It depends on the distance that you want to go into. Nike has training plans. Garmin is the watch I use. They have training plans, etc. My cautionary tale to athletes, former athletes that are getting back into the sport, in your mind, you're going to be the guy that ran 5-minute miles, 6-minute miles, in our case, almost 30 years ago, right?
Right.
Your mind still thinks that, but your body, if you try to live at that pace now, your body's only going to be able to do it for a little while. So I would say ease back into it. Get yourself a good base of training, and then you can start to do some faster runs. Because the key thing there is you're getting started. It's a competition of one, right? You're just competing with yourself to get better. Don't worry about how fast everybody else is going at that point. So, when you get built back up, you can start worrying about times.
Okay. So, okay. Now you told us how you got started and whatnot. Now, your daughter, the one you talk about, is that the one that just graduated?
She just graduated. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, she's doing great and everything. That's good to hear.
Yeah. And that's a good point. She's thriving. Full circle on that. A lot of times what you read on the internet is the worst case scenarios, and bless those people that are living with those conditions. Our situation wasn't quite as heavy for us of a burden. She certainly had side effects of the disorder, but she's been able to really grow and flourish.
Good for her. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Now, so what got you into the podcasting element of talking about running?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started listening to running podcasts back around that same time I got started running, and there was a guy, Steve Walker, who used to do a podcast called Fedipidations. And this is
again?
Fedipidations. It's like Phidippides, the Greek soldier that ran from, I think it was Marathon to Athens, to let the general know that they won the battle. And he ended up dying at the spot. So they named marathons after that Greek span of distance, and Phidippides was the soldier that ran that distance. So Steve Walker had a podcast. It was called Fedipidations after Phidippides, and he would just talk about whatever was going on in his running world. Usually he was trying to break 4 hours in a marathon, so that was kind of his goal, and he'd give us updates on what was going on in his training at the time and stuff like that. And you got to remember, at that point, we didn't have Instagram and Facebook and things like that. So now if you want to see what's going on in the running world, you go on Instagram and you can find 10,000 different people in your feed. Back then, you really had to go looking for stuff, and he was one of the first ones. He's kind of the godfather. So I always liked his show. I always listened to it. Over the years, I've listened to a lot of different podcasts. Some of my favorites right now, Carrie Tollefson's a former Olympian. She does a podcast where she interviews all distance runners, distance runners of all distances, from sprinters to marathoners and so forth. And she just does a really good job engaging people in authentic conversation. And you have fun listening to the show. So that's really cool. That's one of the reasons I like her show. There's another guy, Steve Magnus. I listen to his show. He's very scientific. So if you listen to his podcast, if you listen to an episode, he'll be dropping names on you, and you're going to be like trying to write them down as fast as you can to remember who he's talking about. He'll be throwing out the Igloys and Lydiards and so forth, and you're going to be like, okay, I need to look those up later because he's really into the scientific realm of it, and so that's pretty cool. I've liked listening to him. And there's a lot of other podcasters out there who have sort of helped guide my way of thinking about it. And so what I landed on was the Runnerds Library Podcast would be talking about running books, and whenever possible with the author that wrote the book. And it's been cool. I'm sure you'd have the same kind of opinion, right? That every guest is a little bit different, but you can learn something from everybody.
Absolutely.
You get like that really fun conversation, and they don't have to be cookie cutter, and they don't have to be the same. And sometimes that's the really cool part about it. So I've talked to local folks, I've talked to national bestsellers, and so forth, and it's just been a lot of fun. So I don't know that I ever really. Again, it was probably jokingly, I might have said, just like I said, I was going to run a marathon someday. I might have said, I'm going to have a podcast someday. And here we are.
And it's doing well.
Yeah.
Aren't you on, is it audio podcast or on YouTube as well?
It's mostly audio. I do have some clips up on YouTube. And so if you go to any of your favorite podcast platforms, I'm on Apple, I'm on Spotify, Castbox. You just have to look up Runnerds Library Podcast and you'll find me. And so, yeah, it's picking up steam. And I think you probably would agree with this. Like, it takes a while. It takes, I'm now 5 episodes have dropped. I've got 2 more that are in editing and 1 more I'm recording tomorrow. So every time you drop an episode, your listenership grows and the feedback and those things. So that's kind of the growth mode I'm in right now. And it's exciting to hear, and it's exciting to look at stats and say, oh, I have people listening to me from 4 different continents, right? Listening to hear what we have to say about the books that we're reading. And that's a lot of fun.
Okay. So, I mean, what's one of the I guess, common themes between like runners of your skill? Like first beginning runners, what's one of the common complaints or things that they may have, and then as they get more advanced at it to where at your level?
Yeah. So early on, beginners, the biggest challenge is just getting yourself out the door, right? Just open the door and go out. And then when you get out there, that first half a mile is going to feel like pain and hell every time. And if you let that stop you, you're going to miss some beautiful runs, because once you get past that half mile, your body's like, oh, okay, we're going to do this now. And for anybody that's played basketball and you're running up and down the court and you get that second wind, right? You know how great that second wind feels in basketball. It's the same kind of thing in running. You get past a certain point, all of a sudden your body, your gait, your running motion gets more cohesive, and it's smoother. And your mind starts to think about other things than the pain the body might have felt the first half mile. So I say, give yourself some time to get into the run before you sort of feel a little bit sluggish about it or anything like that. Again, the shoes are important. Make sure you've got good shoes. Live by the 3 pillars of training, and this pretty much goes for any sport. That's going to be getting adequate fueling, the stuff you're eating, right? It's going to be resting and recovering, very important, and it's going to be doing the training. So those 3 things, and that's pretty much every sport, but it's really important with running that you don't skimp on the recovery part of it. Again, talking to athletes who may have been active in sports 10, 15 years ago and are getting back into it, and they want to go out every day. You need to sort of respect the boundaries and the recovery time. And you'll read in books from people like Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall's a 2:03:54 marathoner. Numerous college accolades, and he talked about like the one thing he wished he would have known earlier on in his career was to really respect recovery time. Take more time off, listen to your body more, those kind of things. So I definitely recommend that too. As you go up the scale, just continue to increase what you know about running and continue to improve the types of workouts that you're doing. For me, I like a good workout. It's almost sometimes more fun than a race even. A couple of my buddies and I will go to the track and we'll do 400-meter repeats. And we have a goal to do 20 by 400-meter repeats later this year. And for me, it's like, okay, we're going to go do 10 by 400. I'm super excited and pumped about that workout, and then building up to the 20 by 400. So looking for things that are kind of that carrot dangling for you, the intrinsic rewards, like you were talking about before, like you improved your cardio and you felt really good after the workout. Those are the kind of things that I love. You go do the workout, you're done, and man, you just kick your butt, but it feels so good afterwards.
There you have it. Have you seen this guy on it's on social media? It might have been Facebook or Instagram. He's like a huge black dude, huge, probably like 6'3", 300 pounds, and he wants to make running everybody's favorite sport. I don't know if it's a joke or not, but I saw it and I was kind of looking up it. That was another thing that made me want to look into you to talk to you about running. Have you seen this guy?
If you come across it, send it my way. I know there's an author that just wrote a book called Slow AF about running, and I'm not sure if it's him, but yeah, I mean, it's for everybody. It really is. Like you see all body types, you'll see all fitness levels, and my fitness level sort of goes between. Last year I was running 5Ks in right around 24 minutes. Today I'd probably, if I was going to do a 5K, it would probably take me about 29 or 30 minutes just because of the kind of shape I'm in right now. But there are people in all different phases of their training and ability level, and just like I said earlier, just run where you are. It's all a competition of one.
That seems very important, a competition of one, because when I'm out there running, I'm thinking about everything else, everyone else. People, if I'm on the treadmill, people looking at me. I look at the fat dude on the treadmill, I'm too worried about what people are saying. But like you said, I get through the first, I do time. 25 minutes, at minimum. That first 10 minutes is grueling,
right?
For me personally. But once I get going, it's like, okay, why am I stopping? I can keep going, for another, 20 minutes if I felt like it.
And I give you kudos for being on the treadmill. That's the thing that I have to play games if I'm on the treadmill. I'm hitting I'm going to go up 0.2 every minute
right.
until I get to a certain thing. Then I'm going to back it down. Otherwise, I just can't stay focused. I don't know. It's the ADHD or something. I just can't stay focused on the treadmill. But to your point though, you'll be out on the trail and you think you've got a pretty good pace going. And you're maybe a little bit winded, and then somebody goes flying past you in a really conversational tone, and they're like, "Hey, how are you?" And you're like, "Fine," So you just got to kind of remember, everybody's at a different place, and I always tell myself in those situations that they're not running as far as I am that day. That's why they're going so fast.
All right, folks. So, real quick, Don. You talked about your what did you call it? Publications.
Publications,
about running. What were you? What are your publications? Don't forget to drop those.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, I have one book that is currently out. I don't know if you can see the title there.
Yeah,
High School Runner. This is the author wrote this as kind of a love letter to his teammates. He's a cross country runner in high school, and it's a fictional story based on some real cool people. There's a nice element of nostalgia for people our age too. where like he's talking about wearing the Walkman cassette recorders out on their runs and stuff like that, and just elements that like like for us it'll hit us right back in those feelings of like what it was like back then. But for anybody really, it's a story of a freshman kid coming of age in high school and being part of a team and those kind of things, and the special relationship that he had with his coach, the challenging relationship that he had with his dad and his brother, and the bonds that he formed with his teammates. So I mean, it's a great story. You can get that on my website, which is runnerdlibrary.com /shop. And I have 2 more books coming out this summer. Another one by Bill Kemley, who's the author of that book. It's going to be called Tiny Little Running Shorts, and it's a mix of his short stories about just running in general as a track athlete in high school, cross country athlete, and summer workouts. So some cool stuff. There's a story in there about the kids were out on a run one day, thought maybe they found a dead body. So you kind of have to see what's going on there, and some cool stuff like that. Then my other book is a little bit off a running topic, but it's going to be a World War II related book. It's a thriller based in Luxembourg with 2 teenage protagonists that are trying to stop the Nazis from destroying Luxembourg. So that is called The Order of the Red Lion, and that'll be out in August.
Okay, so what, you publish these books yourself?
Yeah, so I go out and find authors that have materials they want to publish. I have a group of editors that I work with that go through and we make sure it's ready for prime time. We make sure it's got that look and feel of something that you would pick up at Barnes and Noble, because it will be something that you'll pick up at Barnes and Noble. So we're available on my website and really any of the major platforms like Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Who would have thunk it? My classmate is the next Randolph Hearst. That's incredible, man.
Yeah, well, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So, and it's hard work too, but it's putting the passion with the vocation, and it's really been a lot of fun.
That's wonderful to hear about, Mr. Hahn.
Yeah.
Listen, we're gonna wrap this up. Well, hope you. We're gracious to have you on here this one time. We hope to bring you back sometime whenever you're ready, whenever you want to. You come on. But we definitely want to talk about winter running. Because out in the Midwest, it's a whole different thing of trying to run from October to March.
Okay, I'll give you some tips there, but I will tell you right now, just to prime the pump, as long as it's over 35 degrees outside, I'm wearing shorts. Just to give you that little tidbit.
There you go.
And
see, that type of thing.
Yeah, we could dig into it deeper after that. But yeah, it's been a pleasure being on the show. And keep putting on the good work. I'll keep watching. I know a lot of other people keep watching too. It's definitely an enjoyable show.
Appreciate it, man. Go ahead and tell us your website and your YouTube and podcast channels here one last time before we sign out.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's going to be Runnerd Library. That's RUNNERD Library. Also, that's the same on Facebook and YouTube. My website is www.runnerdlibrary.com. And again, you can find my podcast on any platform that you're interested in listening on, and it's Runnerds Library Podcast. So we'll be dropping an episode tomorrow with a guest that I just spoke to from the University of Cincinnati. So
do you have a schedule that you normally post, or you just kind of post randomly?
I have a regular schedule. I post twice a month. So it comes out to be about every 2 weeks, but it's twice a month. And then I'll do some special episodes like the one that's dropping tomorrow. That one is a follow-up episode to my 4th episode, where I talked about the book, What Made Maddie Run. So check it out. I had a great conversation, and I hope people find some value in it.
Hey, listen, folks, we're gonna wrap this up here. This is it was good catching up with you, Don. Talking to you in depth more than just on social media and whatnot. This is Don Hahn, the producer, director, writer for Runnerds Podcast Library on Facebook, YouTube, everything. all your social media and whatnot. And Don, just want to tell you it was a pleasure, and I'm glad you were able to come on the show with us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to being on again sometime. Thanks a lot.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, sir, and best of luck to your family. Your daughter just graduated, and everybody else. And until then, folks, that's Mr. Hahn, and we'll be back. I'll bring you some action on the next show, folks. But until then, everybody be well. Peace out.